For centuries, the ultimate ambition of science has been to step outside of reality in order to explain it. We seek a theory of everything, a single framework that organizes the fundamental laws of the universe from a perfectly detached, objective perspective. This methodological ideal is what philosopher Thomas Nagel called the view from nowhere. It suggests that to truly understand the world, we must observe it as if we were floating entirely outside of its influence. But there is a structural problem with this goal. Human beings do not observe the universe from an external vantage point. We are physical, biological systems embedded inside it. The tools we use to build our models, our perception, our memory, even our logic, are themselves products of the system they are trying to analyze. We are part of the system we are attempting to verify. Because no system can fully describe the whole it belongs to from the inside, a complete view from nowhere is structurally impossible. To exist is to be somewhere specific. This isn't a failure of imagination, it's a feature of logic. In mathematics, Kurt Gödel demonstrated that even in idealized systems, there are true statements that simply cannot be proven from within the system itself. In physics, Werner Heisenberg established that the more precisely we measure one property, the more we blur another. The observer's presence is not neutral, it's an active perturbation of the system. For an embedded observer, a total external view of reality is forbidden by the same logic. We cannot step outside the frame to see the whole picture because we are the ones holding the camera. This doesn't make science less powerful. General relativity and quantum mechanics predict the behavior of the universe with staggering accuracy. But it does mean our knowledge is always partial, local, and provisional. If we cannot measure reality by escaping it, we must measure it by tracking how it presses against us. Our internal emotional range isn't a distraction from the data. It is the data. It's the only instrument we have that is in direct contact with the structure we inhabit. Consider the Mobius strip. It provides a useful structural model for the limits of our awareness. To a walker on its surface, the ground always feels flat. There is always a direction forward. Locally, you never experience the single-sidedness of the loop. You only experience the path under your feet. The other orientation of the strip is always there, but it is structurally uninhabitable in the moment. You can't see the twist while you're standing on it. This geometric limit explains why attempting a total zoom out causes the system to buckle. Trying to hold a precise local position and a global overview simultaneously overloads our tracking capacity. Consciousness requires this gap. We need proximity to the unknown to generate forward motion, but we cannot enter it fully without losing the stable position required to be an observer in the first place. Because we cannot see the whole from above, we have to map the structure through our own internal fluctuations. We have to track the surface of the strip as we walk it. We call the range where a mind can function without collapsing the coherence band. It's the safe corridor between total rigid order and total chaotic dissolution. Emotional states, awe, grief, harmony, fear, function as probes. They contact the edges of our coherence, illuminating different dimensions of the structure we inhabit. Some observers operate with wider variance. Systems navigating clinical depression or mania swing much closer to the boundaries, contacting terrain that a stable mid-range baseline never touches. At these edges, the boundary becomes a survival threshold. Navigating these extremes isn't just a philosophical exercise. It requires active anchoring, tools like medication or structured reflection to keep the system functional. When these observers remain anchored, they contribute something unique. They aren't unreliable. They are sensitive instruments reporting on territory that a person with a flat baseline structurally cannot see. The collective field requires this edge case data. To reach a higher resolution of reality, we need the reports of those who have navigated its extremes. If every observer is trapped within their own local view, they remain isolated. Empathy is the mechanical process that bridges that gap. It's more than a moral sentiment. Unlike predation, which models another mind to extract from it, empathy registers another observer as a coherence system just as real as your own. It acts as a form of gravitational coupling. By registering another embedded consciousness, two systems calibrate in real time, finding a temporary shared coherence that neither could produce alone. This coupling generates an emergent collective field. It's a new level of integration that expands the boundaries of what we can understand. Through the precise mechanism of empathy, our shared existence increases the resolution at which we perceive the universe. We can observe this model in action by looking at what happens when the system's defenses are voluntarily suppressed, as they are in psychedelic therapy. Neurologically, compounds like psilocybin quiet the default mode network. This is the neural architecture that maintains your self-narrative and holds your unprocessed history at a safe distance. The compound doesn't create new content, it simply removes the shield. It exposes the emotional signals that were already present but held at arm's length. This is amplification. Your internal architecture, your patterns, your history, your defended territory is suddenly surfaced at maximum resolution. A bad trip is a structural collision. It happens when the amplified material crashes into rigid internal resistance. It is the sound of the system violently fighting its own signals. Because this collision is mechanical, it's predictable. By assessing where a person's ordinary empathy pathways are closed, we can see exactly where the amplification will hit a blockage before the session starts. This reframes the importance of grounding. Breathwork or relational support aren't just comforts. They are the epistemological infrastructure required for the system to remain stable. Grounding preserves your capacity to track what is happening. It keeps the observer position intact so that the increased resolution leads to clarity rather than just noise. Altered states do not bring in new truths from the outside. They only produce coherent understanding if the pre-existing architecture is dense enough to receive the signal it is generating. Most scientific models treat the mind as species general, a single type of brain doing a single type of work. But that describes only the map, not the territory. The individual is the irreducible variable. Your specific architecture is built from every trauma you've navigated and every expansion you've undergone. That history is the substrate of your reality. If you suppress emotional signals long enough, the energy required to hold them down becomes your baseline. You forget you are even carrying a weight. You simply think this is how you function. When that suppression releases, you enter a traversal. It's the destabilizing gap between an old, compressed balance and a new, open equilibrium. It's a volatile transition. But moving through that gap is the only way an embedded observer can finally see the shape of what they have been carrying for a lifetime. Clarity is not a gift delivered from the outside. It is the moment your own internal structure becomes legible to you. You didn't design your architecture and can't always see it whole, but turning toward what surfaces, that traversal is yours. Remaining present as the weight reveals its shape is your agency. No one else can navigate your structure for you. We will never achieve a perfectly objective view from nowhere. We will always be inside the system, mapping reality through our own limited perspectives. But that limit doesn't diminish our meaning. To live, to suffer, to care, and to actively map our internal geometry within an incomplete universe is the highest form of truth available to us.